Today's guest on Dashing Dan's Olympic Adventures for Aussie Home Loans, who deal with anyone in Australia, have clients in every state and capital city, and the different areas of expertise include first home buyers, equipment loans, car loans, and personal loans. Is one of Australia's most capped men's hockey players. And he certainly was the most capped until Eddie Ockenden took that honour and is still playing today. And who knows, with the way Eddie's going to Paris, he may play forever. But this man went to 4 Olympic Games for Australia. He won 3 medals, not a gold, but still a great effort in winning a silver and 2 bronze medals, and also 4th in another Olympic Games as well. He won a Champions Trophy, he won a World Championship, and he played over 300 games for Australia. He's now coaching the under-21 team, and as I say, one of the all-time greats of Australian men's hockey, the Kookaburras. Jay Stacy. Jay, welcome to Dashing Dan's Olympic Adventures. Great to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks for the invite. Look forward to having a chat.
Long career. Do you look back and think, gee, I achieved a lot?
Oh, yeah, now that I'm in coaching and you reflect back on your playing days, and I'm also, getting on a little bit, and you reflect back sometimes with my 2 sons as well, that they're not into hockey, but certainly now that the Paris Games are fast approaching, they're starting to talk a little bit more about the Olympics and share a few little moments with them. Some of them are real highlights of my career, and and there's some disappointments along the way as well. When you're training, sort of 4-year cycle, and you're preparing and playing tournaments to get to the Olympics, and then you don't sort of achieve your ultimate. It's a little bit disappointing, but when I reflect, I'm pretty proud of the of what I was able to achieve along the journey.
Australian men's hockey team at times have been described as chokers. They would dominate every event, every world event in the lead up to Olympic Games, whether it be in the 80s, when that 80 side was probably the best we've ever seen. We didn't get a chance to go to the Games, 84, even 88 into the 90s, but only 1 Olympic gold medal. Is it unfair to call them chokers? They're pretty hard to win, aren't they, Olympic gold medals?
Well, they're very difficult to win. I think, chokers is a pretty harsh tag to live with, but I can kind of understand it when we've only won 1 Olympic gold medal. Certainly, we're always around the medals mark. We've got a proud history, the Kookaburras, of achieving sort of late in the Olympic tournaments. But, if you were to say last year, after, say, Collingwood win a premiership, will they win the premiership in 4 years' time? Your list changes by a minimum of 50%, sometimes up to 70% by once that 4-year time cycle has gone by. So to say you chokers from Olympics to Olympics is a little bit harsh, I would have thought.
Why hockey for you, Jay?
At my primary school, one of the teachers there was heavily involved in a local club. Probably wouldn't be allowed these days. He used to bring a big cricket kit full of hockey sticks and just dump them in the yard for everyone to have a bit of a go, and some balls and things like that. And a lot of us, all kids, you want to try different things and different sports. And once we sort of had a bit of a bash around, and literally sometimes in the schoolyard, then the Flyers come down and give it a try and things like that. And I've got an older brother, and he took it up along with a lot of his friends, and Mum took me along as well, just to take him to to a training or a trial or whatever. And then I just sort of fell in love with the game. I really enjoyed it. I felt like I was always involved, because you got a stick in your hand and there's a ball and hand-eye and all those sort of things. So yeah, I just really fell in love with it from a very early age. I started when I was 5. So it's a little bit unusual sport. All my mates were playing footy and all those types of things. So there was some good banter around that.
When did you know that you were going to be pretty special at it?
I don't know if I knew I was going to be special or talented at the sport, but I knew that I had a drive and I wanted to be the best that I could be. And one of my junior hockey coaches reminded me not too long ago, at my 50th birthday actually, that he made a little test on a chalkboard in the club rooms, and he drew a line and asked all the players, in his team. It was under 12s or under 10s maybe even, and he asked, where would you like to be, playing, and it was Reservoir Hockey Club at the time. It no longer exists, but it was Reservoir Hockey Club. And you put a line where you want to be, the club level, senior club, and then all these little marks. And then I remember the situation, but I don't remember where I put my line, but I put it right at the very top and said that I wanted to play for Australia. So that was a nice reflection from him through our junior days. And that was very young, but I knew right from a young age that I wanted to play for Australia.
Four-time Olympian in men's hockey, Jay Stacy's my guest on Dashing Dan's Olympic Adventures for Aussie Home Loans. We've got 25 lenders on their panel around Australia. Now, Jay, you were chosen in the 88 team to go to Seoul. You were the youngest member of the team. You weren't yet 20 or almost 20. Was that a surprise, or you were pretty confident a long way out that you could get there? And was it a target to get there for Seoul?
No, not really. I was only very new to international hockey there. I wasn't actually selected in the original 16. I was in the squad of 24. Performed quite well at the national championships the previous couple of years, and I was at the OES in our centralised program in Perth, and I was training with the squad and all those types of things. But I thought it was just a great opportunity to develop and to get better in completing a full sort of Olympic preparation. But along the way, we train pretty close to the edge, and we still do that. The injuries come up from time to time, and I was playing in some teams that played against the Olympic team in the later stages of their preparation, and there was an injury, and I was called in at the very last minute. I think 2 weeks before the team departed. So I was pretty thrilled. I didn't think I'd be getting much of a game over there, because that was in the days of substitution rather than interchange. So yeah, I was just going, to be whatever support I could be, and if I got a minute on the pitch, I'd be stoked. And but I ended up playing quite a few games. I scored a goal. Bits and pieces happened in the tournament, so I was really, really grateful for that experience and the trust that our coach at the time, Richard Agger, showed in me.
Pretty good team, a lot of experience. Craig Davies, Colin Batch, John Bestel, Warren Birmingham, who you played a lot of hockey with, the great Rick Charlesworth, Dean, York, Walk, Hagar, David Wansborough, yourself, Horgood, Graham Reid, Noel, Roger Smith, Neil Snowden. Lots of experience in that side. Did you have to almost think to yourself, gee, I'm in dreamland here playing with some of these wonderful players?
Well, I'd been playing against them and training with them, so it wasn't really being there amongst those guys, but being at the Olympics and in the Olympic team was a bit of dreamland, as you say. But I had a self-confidence that I thought, well, I've been selected now and I've got a role to play here. And as I just said before, if it was for 1 minute, fantastic. If it was for a game, if it was for however long, I was prepared to do whatever was required by the team. As it turned out, it was Rick's last tournament. I played in the same team as him for a couple of years, his last couple of years and my first couple of years. So that was something always nice to reflect back on, and considering if you mention hockey, then everyone mentions Rick Charlesworth, or perhaps even Jamie Dwyer now.
He's a high achiever, Jay, isn't he? I mean, he played hockey for a long time. What was it? It was just trying to think now, 76, 84, 88, 3 Olympic Games. He's a pretty solid state cricketer. He was a doctor. He then became a state politician, a federal politician, and then he became a very successful coach of both the men's and the women's programs. What made him so good at everything he did, especially hockey?
Oh, he's got, obviously, he has attention for detail to be successful in all those sort of various areas. His attention to detail was enormous. His knowledge and his research on different topics, and in hockey, he researched just like everything else. So, yeah, he was a very good coach. He has his own way. He's a different type of personality to myself. But even today, when I see him around hockey and things like that, we have some good conversations. About the sport, about sort of different things in general. I enjoy talking to him. I just, when he's in the West and I'm in Melbourne, we just don't get to see enough of each other. But he's got some really interesting ideas. He's an innovator. He challenges people in a right way to get the best out of them. So he's. I'm not surprised that he's had so much success as a coach. And now that I'm a coach, there are elements along the way and little lessons you'll learn either as a player or as a young coach coming through, not only from someone like Rick, but a lot of great coaches that I've had. Jim Irvine in Victoria and Colin Batch, the current national coach, was a state coach of mine and teammate as well. So there's a lot of experience in that team that you read out, and knowledge, and it was a free education really for me in terms of hockey.
He retired after coaching the Australian men's team, and he said he wouldn't get back into it. I'm going to have him on the program soon, and I've chatted to him about going back to China as a consultant. He just went over for a little bit of a visit with Alison Annan, who coaches the Chinese women's team now, and he said 2 weeks later, I'm still there. So he just loves it, doesn't he? Can't get enough of it.
Oh he loves a challenge, and he would see that as a challenge. I did see him in Perth with the Chinese team, where spend a lot of time there preparing, in Perth and in Europe, and Alison lives in Holland, and but they've got a really healthy budget. They've got some really quality people in their support staff and their coaching staff. So I think they're progressing nicely towards Paris. Hopefully not too nicely to give our girls, the Hockey Roos, trouble, but certainly they're putting a lot of resources into their women's hockey team. So, and Alison's a very successful, obviously, player before she became a coach, and now she's been a very successful coach with Holland, and now she's with the Chinese team. So it's no surprise that she probably recruited Rick in to look after a certain area.
Now, in that first Olympic Games for you, 1988, you were the reigning world champs and you finished fourth. Obviously, a bitter pill to swallow. Do you look back on that and think of one that got away more than the others?
For me, myself, yes, I know that the senior guys do, who did play in that World Cup team. I think the two injuries cost the team, although I wouldn't have been there if they didn't get those injuries. So, but I think with Peter Hazelhurst being in there, and Dean Evans, they may have been a different team. It was a little bit like us in Barcelona when right at the 11th hour, Mark Hagar, our sort of prolific goal scorer, went down with a foot injury, with a stress fracture, and had to withdraw from the tournament. That sort of took away, one sort of lethal goal scoring person. That was his job within the team, and he's very good at it. So you never know what those little changes can do, but certainly the two changes to the 88 team would have had a significant impact on it, bringing in two young guys who probably had half a dozen games under their belt, Michael York and myself.
In 92, you'd established yourself in the team. You mentioned Mark Hagar. Warren Birmingham was in that side. Stephen Davies was establishing himself. And if you mentioned Michael York's name, you always mentioned Ken Walk's name. Obviously, they rhyme, but they were wonderful defenders. So it was a team that had established itself, and you made the final. Again, was that one that got away, or as you've also quoted, was Germany just a bit too good for you?
Yeah, when you reflect, I mean, we always thought we were a chance, and we went there to win a gold medal, and we prepared well. We had a good team, um, um, and we were in pretty good form as well. Germany had lost the '88 final. They'd lost the '84 final to Pakistan, '88 to GB.
Mm.
So they were pretty seasoned campaigners in Carsten Fischer and Volker Fried and all of these seasoned campaigners who have been there and done it before. And us young guys running around doing our best. I've only just recently watched it for the first time, actually. And they just looked a little bit more calm and in control and experienced in those type of situations. But we went into the tournament, I think, ranked third in the world. We beat Holland in the semi-final, which was a great achievement that far. But certainly, we went into the final with confidence that we wanted to take it up to the Germans, and we knew it was going to be an arm wrestle, but we really thought we had a great chance of winning that game. They scored very early, and as Germans do, they sort of parked the bus a little and controlled the game. Then they scored early again in the second half and made it quite difficult. From memory, I think we scored with about Greg Corbett scored on a penalty corner with about 9 minutes to go, thereabouts. So there was still time if we were good enough. But just on the night, when I reflect now, sort of many, many years on, they were probably a little bit better than us on the night.
When a team scores, and we know, as you say, the way the Germans play, I think they've probably changed their style a bit since then, but they did like to park the bus. They were pretty conservative. They scored early. How did that affect the psyche of the team? Knowing, we've got Germany, they'll make it tough for us to score, they'll be defensive. They've scored in the first couple of minutes. Did it affect the psyche at all, or are you still fairly optimistic you could get back in the game with so much time left?
Oh, no, I think we were, that was probably a beauty of the team. We were youthful and young and full of enthusiasm and things like that. It certainly didn't help. We certainly didn't plan on them scoring so early. We were trying to settle into a game, and just an opportunity, a bit of a fortunate opportunity opened up to penetrate our defence. But I don't think it really changed the psyche. We're still having a crack, and we still were producing some opportunities and some penalty corner chances and things like that. But they were a very strong team. They were professional in their physical sort of play and holding up play and trying to slow it down, knowing full well that Australia's sort of trademark is to play quickly. And we were trying to do that, but they were sort of, getting in your way and knocking the ball away and doing all these little professional things to hold play up or to slow it down, which suited their game style far, far more. So, yeah, of course it would, it would affect you. So when you scored so early, but we were still having a red hot crack, and we still created some opportunities. But I think they were probably a bit better at handling the situation than we were, just through experience.
Jay Stacy is my guest on Dashing Gans Olympic Adventures, four-time Kookaburra in men's hockey, and he won 3 medals, including a silver and 2 bronze medals. And we're here for Aussie Home Loans. They've got over 25 lenders on their panel around Australia. I just want to go back to '88. The girls probably surprised, didn't they? The Hockeyroos in winning the gold medal, and they were the ones that started the famous Aussie, oi, oi, oi. No doubt, even though you would have been disappointed to finish 4th, you would have enjoyed celebrating with them. Were you a little bit envious though, Jay?
Yeah, of course. Yes, they won a gold medal and very well, and I still see a lot of the ladies in that team. I still see around the hockey scene in various states and all of that. And yeah, they've done a marvelous job at that tournament, and they had a good coaching staff in Brian Glencross, and they done a terrific job. the match itself, I was there watching that live. I don't really recall that much of it. Whereas, the games that you're playing, I was sort of more there as watching as a spectator and a bit of cheering them on and hoping they got over the line. So, but they done a fabulous job, the Hockey Roos, over a long period of time. Up until Sydney, really. So they've done a great job.
Are they given enough credit? I mean, or have we got short memories? Because as you say, it's been a bit tougher in recent times. I mean, they were pretty good, I thought, in Tokyo, and we could have nearly won it.
Yeah, they were outstanding through that period. It's been a bit of a lean period since Sydney in 2000, but they've been rebuilding, and I think they're starting to get back on track. They had some coaches and tried out some people and trying to find their best balance, through a long period, and even went to Olympics and things. And they started to come back. I think they lost 1-0 or something to India. Come fourth, or fifth or something in Tokyo. So but I think they're on. They're going well now. They're competing with the top nations, and they've had some really good results of recent times. They're in Europe at the moment and playing in the Pro League, so I'm sure they're going through some, as the men are going through some fine tuning of what they want. They've both the Hockey Roos and the Kookaburras have got 22 players with them, so they have to find their best 16 out of that to go to the Olympic Games. So I think they're going through all those final fine tuning and team balance type things at the moment. There've been a couple of results which haven't sort of seemed that good, but when you are sort of trying things and trying to find your best for the games, then there can be some outlier results there. So hopefully they find their best, both squads find their best 16, and then we can really go deep into the tournament in Paris.
We spoke before about Rick Charlesworth being a successful coach, Colin Batch coaching the men's team, Trenny Power coaching the women's team, Adam Commons coached the women's team for a while, Barry Dancer, of course, won the gold medal for Australia coaching in 2004, Terry Walsh has coached in Australia and overseas, Mark Hagar in New Zealand. We've had a lot of Alison Annan, we mentioned, we've got a lot of very good players who've gone on to great coaching careers. Why do you think that's been the case, Joe?
I think fundamentally it comes down to all those people you mentioned, and there's many more involved in the network and in our coaching system. It's for the love of the game, really, because we all know right from the very beginning that there's no money in the game. So it comes from a deep love of the actual sport and wanting to stay involved in the sport. And once your playing career, there's a lot of time and resources and money spent on you as an athlete. And of course that develops a library of hockey knowledge, and whether you want to use that to go into coaching or not, that's entirely up to you. But players and have gone off into corporate careers, and they'd be using some of those skills and experiences through their sport in their corporate world. Well, some other people that a list that you've just mentioned have chosen to go down a coaching path, and I'm the same. I really love the sport. I want to remain at the top, the top 3, 4 in the world, for as long as possible. And as the national under 21 coach for the last couple of years, not only do we want to be successful in junior tournaments like the Sultan of Johor Cup and the World Cup every 2 years now and things like that, but we do want to develop these young men into Kookaburras, and we want to sort of provide a conveyor belt for these guys to learn the right way of play, the right skills, the international standards, the world trends that we see. We want to implement all of that so we can give them a base skill level and knowledge and understanding, and teach them decision making under pressure and all those types of things, because we do, in the end of the day, we do want them to all to become Kookaburras. They're not, that won't happen, but we certainly will create some Kookaburras along the way, and that's going to create a base and a real real depth of talent that we can call on in future generations and future Olympic cycles.
Is the depth still as good as it's been? I mean, the talent pool coming through. I mean, as I said a bit earlier, when Rick Charlesworth and Terry Walsh and Peter Hazelhurst and all those guys were playing in the 70s and 80s, and you came through with Mark Hagar, Warren Birmingham, and Ken Walker, Michael York, and Stephen Davies and Jamie Dwyer, and the list just goes on and on and on. Bevan George. There was always good players to replace those coming out. You're confident with the group of players you've got that they'll come on and replace the current batch playing in the senior team?
Yeah, definitely. There's some real quality youngsters out there, and a few of those sort of rose to the top at the Junior World Cup last year in Kuala Lumpur. And saying that, for the Kookaburras, we also identified a few that Germany have, Holland have, France have, Argentina have. So I think the sport of hockey world globally is in a really healthy position, and it's going to be challenging, for the next however many Olympic cycles. So we need to keep pace. We need to make sure that we're innovative. We need to make sure that we're providing enough international competition to these young men as well, because if you can't experience it and you can't play it, then you don't really get the same feeling as if you're playing, at a state level or a state under 21 nationals or a hockey one league and things like that. Yes, it's very, very, very high level competition, but it's another big level, another big jump in levels when you go to play your international. So the more international competition we can get for our youngsters coming through, the better it's going to serve them in the long run, however far their career takes them.
Now, Jay, because the hockey tournament always finished at the end and started at the start and it lasted the 2 weeks, you were playing right throughout. But there were so many sports, like the rowing finished after the first week, the swimming finished after the first week. And I had James Tompkins on the other day, part of the Awesome Foursome, and they had a great time, of course, and they probably led the celebrations for everyone. What was it like having the rest of the Australian team, most of which had finished their events, be there to support you, whether it be a playoff for gold or a playoff for a bronze medal? How much did that help?
Oh, it's enormous. In the Olympic team itself, across all disciplines of sport, there's an enormous camaraderie. You're away from home, and some athletes are being in a training base in Europe, say, even leading into that, so they haven't been home for some time. But there's a certain feeling, there's a certain culture within an Australian Olympic team, and it's fantastic. At the end of tournaments, when we're playing, virtually on the second last day, the next day is probably the closing ceremony, or at least the one after, when they're all there. And Barcelona very special for that, with a massive crowd. And there's been some, in Olympics gone by since then, there's been some reports about people not having tickets and doing certain stuff to their accreditations and things to get in. And I'm pretty sure that was rife in Barcelona because there was that many people in there. I'm not sure that the Australian contingent were allocated that many tickets, but it was fantastic to have them there. It was a very disappointing, sort of somber type finish for us, and having to step up and onto the number 2 block and listen to the German national anthem and things like that. That was pretty disappointing. But when you go back in the change rooms and you sit around with all the guys you've been slaving away for 4 years, sometimes 8 years, you realize it's a pretty special moment, even though you didn't sort of achieve what you set out to do. But it's a pretty special moment, and you have your reflections and things like that. And then when all those people, whether the Olympian, of course, the Awesome Foursome, they won, and then there's other people who weren't as successful, or there's plenty of athletes who don't get a medal, but they certainly record a PB or whatever it might be. So everyone has their own form of success, and whilst we were going for a gold medal. On reflection, a few days later, I think disappointed to lose the gold medal, but to take home a silver was a pretty nice thing. And now, I don't know how many years is it, 30 odd years or whatever. It's nice to every now and again show somebody if they're interested, or my kids have a look at it, or whatever it might be. Wednesday night at local footy, it was wear your dad's old jumper night, training night for one of my boys, and he went through my old jerseys and didn't have a footy jumper, but he wore my Atlanta playing shirt to footy training, just because that's what Dad used to do. So that kind of makes me proud as well.
Would have been a bit cold though, because wasn't it a singlet, Jay?
Not in those days. No,
Right.
not in those days. It was a big, long, baggy shirt, but it was a dry fit type fabric. So I don't know, if he was putting in at training like he should have been, it wouldn't have worried him. So that's fine.
No, that's fair enough. Did you get to know many of the other athletes, despite the fact, as I said, you often, because you were pretty good, you play till the end of the Olympics? I mean, you did go to four, so I suppose you would have crossed paths with quite a few, and there were quite a few from your home state, Victoria, including, of course, the awesome foursome, who starred for a few Olympic Games, as we mentioned earlier.
No, exactly right. Yeah, and obviously my other role, I'm head coach of the men's program at the Victorian Institute of Sport currently. So from time to time, Jimmy Tompkins comes in. He has a bit of a workout in the gym at different functions. Nick Green as well around the place, and of course some of my teammates. I see around the hockey scene and things like that. Also, Shane Kelly is a cycling coach. He was an Olympic teammate, and I get on really well. We had a little project in a book together as well, so we got to know each other, and we still go. We still head into coaches' meetings now, at different sort of seminars and things like that. So, but Shane Kelly, and the cyclist, a star himself, so that's good. We often sort of have a chat about our sport and our coaching and what do you do with certain athletes in different situations. So there's a fairly healthy knowledge bank at the VIS and wherever you go in sport, really, in Australia. Everyone's willing to have a chat and help out, and most people are only a phone call away.
Just on Shane Kelly, I suppose you can relate to him. I mean, he was a red-hot favourite, wasn't he, in 1996, and had the sporting tragedy. It's a sporting tragedy of his foot coming out of the pedal. That was pretty tough, wasn't it? That would go down as, I suppose, one of the more disappointing moments on an Olympic situation, wouldn't it? I mean, when you've spoken to him, Jay, has he spoken a lot about it? Does he feel like he's missed out, even though he won a silver, of course, in 1992?
Oh, yeah, I think he does feel like he missed out, because I think the winning time in his event, I think he already beat that in training.
Yeah.
That winning time, and he was last on the track, being the current world champion. And he also talks about the percentages of his foot coming out was about like 1,000,000 to 1. Like, it's just unheard of. And I think from that moment, I think there has been some innovation about the shoes clipping in, or some mechanical innovation, so that never happens again. But it's just an unfortunate moment. He's a ripping guy and a top athlete, but he couldn't do much about it. It just happened right at that moment, and it's you just wouldn't dream of it happening. But certainly, I'm sure deep down he feels like there's a missed opportunity, and probably asked himself, why me at that time.
Absolutely. That's sport, though, isn't it? That's probably why we love it. That's why we get frustrated by it. Jay Stacy, four-time hockey-roo, one of the greatest players to play for Australia, and for a long time was the holder of the most number of international games for the Kookaburras. He has joined me on Dashing Dan's Olympic Adventures for Aussie Home Loans. Jay, to 1996 to Atlanta, a bronze medal. Again, you played some great hockey. Again, you just missed out.
Yeah, for me, that one was probably the one that really got away from us. Yeah, we were playing some reasonable hockey, absolutely. But I think we just possibly got caught off guard a little bit by meeting Spain in a semi-final. They'd been going okay, and we played them in a 2 25-minute scratch match before the tournament started, because they were in the other pool, and I think we beat them like in 2 25s, like 3-1 or 4-1. It was like quite convincing. We played well. We thought we were going along quite nicely and things like that. Whether that adds, and then as the tournament panned out, Spain were playing some really good hockey, and they ended up meeting us in the crossover in the semi-final. And whether that subconsciously took the edge off us because we'd played them, I'm not sure. I often reflect and think about that. Whether that took the edge off us because we had played them in that practice game and we had been successful, whether we really, whether we really sort of stayed focused and played our game, or whether we just went out and thought it may happen. And only at that level, it only has to be 1 or 2%, a fraction off. By no means were we, complacent or anything like that. And we prepared properly, and everything was absolutely quite normal. I just, have that little feeling, maybe just a 1 or 2% edge was taken off us, and thought it may have going to be happening anyway. So that's one that really got away from us. And yeah, we went on to win a bronze medal. We beat Germany for third and fourth, which was a nice way to finish. But yeah, I feel that we really sort of let an opportunity go there. If we beat Spain, then we get into a final against Holland. So, which would have been a great match. They were in our pool. We were even teams. I think they might have beat us 3-2 or something in our round game of very even lists. So it could have gone any way, but going in, we would have been, full of confidence. But you got to get there, got to be in it to win it. And unfortunately, we didn't get there in those games.
So how do you get yourself up when you think that you're good enough to win the semi-final, to get into a gold medal playoff, and you don't achieve that, but you've still got a game to go to win a bronze medal? Is it hard to get yourself up?
It has to happen pretty quick.
Yeah.
And if you're in a team of 16 plus support staff and coaches and things, each individual deals with that disappointment in a different way. So you need to give time to each individual to absorb that. And I think that, I don't know, you don't want to do it too often because you'd be rather playing in the big dance. But if you have to do it, I think Australians do that turnaround and that attitude of sort of getting on with it. I think we do that probably better than some other teams. But yeah, it is a challenge, but we've done it with fairly good success, sort of through my period. I wish I didn't have to, but we did do it pretty well. We won a couple of bronze medals. It's always good to finish on a winning note. In some ways, it feels better than the silver medal because, people say, "Oh, you won a silver medal." Well, no, we really lost a gold medal. And it's more disappointing when you lose your last match than you win your last match.
So what's harder to win, a semi-final or a gold medal playoff match, or a bronze medal playoff match?
Semi-final.
Well, why is that? More pressure?
No, not more pressure. No, I don't think it's more pressure. I just think it's just an arm wrestle. It's just a chess match. They're just difficult, more difficult matches. It just feels that way. I can't really put my finger on it of why, but obviously both teams are going flat out and want to get to a final that secures you. If you win, it secures you a medal. So you're going to take something home. If you lose, you've got an opportunity to, like in '88, to win or draw all your matches, and then you go out in straight sets and you take nothing home for your 4 years' work. It's that's a disappointing thing. So at least you've got something to show for your efforts.
Correct.
But I don't know exactly why, but it just feels a lot harder, a lot more physical. They don't give an inch, you know. Sounds a little bit strange, but to qualify for the final, yeah, I felt, even though the German game was hard, the semi-final in Barcelona against Holland was and we were on the winning end of it. It was a very, very tough game, very tough game.
And then to Sydney, which was your final Olympic Games. Was that always the plan, to finish off in front of the home crowd in Sydney? And again, it was another bronze medal. Did you feel more pressure? Because again, you're obviously going in as one of the favourites, and there was probably expectation that you would win. There was certainly expectation that the girls would win after winning in '96. They successfully defended their gold medal, the Hockey Roos. And I suppose the pressure was on the Kookaburras as well, Jay.
Oh, certainly, and Home Olympics does provide some additional pressure. We weren't travelling that well. We played in a Champions Trophy, I think it was, in Holland, and we didn't go very well at all. And that was in 2000 itself. So we need to do a little bit of soul searching and working out what we were going to do. And we come together. We were trained together the whole time, but we had a break and then come back together, and and we got it to a place where we were playing extremely well, without scoring a lot of goals, but we were sort of controlling games and being, you know, assertive and playing reasonably well. So Sydney was, a different experience, but the hockey side of it was pretty good, and you know, to get through, it had its twists and turns like every Olympics. And it looked like we were going to be playing Germany in a semi-final, because Pakistan had beaten Holland, and Holland were going to be out of the tournament. The very last match of the round robins or the qualification matches, GB beat Germany, which hadn't happened for I don't know how many years, but that made Germany miss out and Holland come back into the tournament. And we'd seen Holland at the food hall after they lost to Pakistan, and they were like down and out. They were just completely believed that they were gone so they got their second lease on life, and met us in a semi-final, and it was a dour arm wrestle of a game. You know, we have some little, you know, KPIs. We don't want to give too many penalty corners against Holland. That's their main scoring avenue. We didn't give any penalty corners away the whole semi-final. We had one. We weren't successful, but it was just an arm wrestle the whole night. Both teams weren't taking that many risks. But it was a real arm wrestle, and of course, history shows it went down to a penalty shootout. They scored 5 and we scored 4. Unfortunately, their save hit the keeper on the helmet and went wide. Our goalkeeper, he got a good piece of one, hit his shoulder and dropped behind him and went over the line, and that's enough to qualify. And Holland weren't playing particularly well that tournament. They were 3-0 down in the final against Korea, South Korea, who we'd beaten in the round games 2 or 3-1. Then they come back to 3-3. Then they won the final in a penalty shootout as well. So kudos to them from coming sort of back from the brink, to clinch their back-to-back gold medal as well, because they won in '96 as well.
And all you guys used up your luck in other lives, Jay. I mean, you're so unlucky. I mean, it's not just It's not poor performance. It's just a lack of luck, really, isn't it?
Well, yeah, not real. I mean, you make your own luck. We had a penalty corner, and
Yeah.
we called a penalty corner we think we're going to be successful with. We scout the opposition. We do all our research and our game plan and things like that. And sometimes, it doesn't come off, and it didn't come off then, but we only had the one opportunity. Normally we would, probably get, 4 or 5 corners and per match, and Holland do the same and they score a few, but we were, very good defensively and didn't give them any opportunities. So, that's a tick to us. And then, we weren't as penetrating as we once could have been. I think we probably could have taken a bit more risk. And I remember playing on, Toon De Nooijer, who's a wonderful, probably the best opponent I've ever played on, maybe apart from Shabazz Ahmed from Pakistan. But, my attention was trying to sort of nullify him a little bit more and probably not be as, trying to have as much impact as I probably needed to have, or should have had, or could have had, or whatever. But, at that time, you're nullifying one of the best players in the world. So you think you're doing a good job. But, in hindsight, you could probably take a few more risks. But there's a lot riding on it. So the ability to be able to take risks when the important moments are there is sometimes a difficult thing to do. And I coach now, and that's, I'm trying to emphasize on, yes, you need to take risks. You don't win anything playing safe and things like that to the young men that I coach at the moment. So it's difficult to take risk and take calculated risk and play assertively when there's a lot riding on things. And that's a critical factor in being successful in those big matches.
So you're thinking that semi-final, maybe slightly tense because of the occasion. It was a home Olympic Games, big chance to play in the gold medal. You felt your chance of winning the gold medal if you got through. Netherlands not in great form, that you were trying not to lose instead of maybe trying to win. You're a bit cautious.
Not as black and white as that, but I just think we probably could have been a little bit more assertive. And we were certainly wanting to keep our defense tight, but that was with every game that we played. That wasn't something new, but I just think we probably could have been, with the ball, we probably could have been a little bit more assertive in what we did and a little bit more testing. And Holland were the same. They were trying to slow the game down a bit. That we wanted to play faster, but they were the same. They were tentative as well because they weren't in good form. So there was a real arm wrestle. That's another game that I haven't rewatched. So maybe I should do that one day.
You got nightmares, Jay. I suppose you do when you lose a game that you think you probably should win.
Oh no, not nightmares. Certainly not. And it's I wouldn't say we should win, but
Would have won.
we definitely created some opportunities to win. But I think we could have taken the game on a bit more to create more opportunities to win. Not nightmares. Did I want to win? Absolutely, and bitterly disappointed. But as you said before, that is sport, and if the Olympic Games were easy, then everyone would be playing them. So it's a tough gig, and we know what it's about. We're experienced in that area, but we couldn't make it happen on the night.
We're getting a great insight into Australian men's hockey from one of their all-time greats in Jay Stacy, 4-time Olympian, 88, 92, 96, 2000. He won a silver medal and 2 bronze, and 4th in 1988 as well as a teenager. And this is Dashing Dan's Olympic Adventures for Aussie Home Loans, where their areas of expertise include purchasing a property, owner-occupied or investment. You can build a property portfolio. You can refinance with them, debt consolidation, cash out, construction, pre-approvals, first home buyers, and all sorts of loans such as equipment, car, and personal loans. So playing for the bronze medal there, were you flat, or were you so determined you had to win a medal in front of the home crowd?
No, we were yeah, so once again we went through that phase of disappointment and we missed our opportunity, and everyone deals with it. But we regrouped. We were at home. Everyone's obviously more family and friends than normal were around, and everyone wanted to play well. Um, penalty shootout can go either way. It wasn't as if we played bad or anything like that. It can go either way. It just didn't go our way. So we were very keen to put a very good performance. Some guys had already announced their retirements. Stephen Davies, Michael York, a few others. So we wanted to, at the end of a campaign of a 4-year campaign, we wanted to put together another good performance and have pride in our performance, and we did that. We really took Pakistan apart in that game. I think it was 6-2 in the end, and yeah. Um, so yeah, we were able to win a bronze medal, but certainly not the one that we were going there for.
So were you thinking with the way you played in that match, which was almost the perfect game, when you win 6-2, it just about is the perfect game. Did you think what might have been if we had played like that in the semi? We get up and win?
Yeah, well, you often think like that, but Pakistan play a more open sort of style. It's a different type of game. But I think Pakistan, from memory, I think Pakistan might have even scored first. So maybe we didn't get off to the best start that we got from memory. I could be wrong, but from memory they scored first. But no, the game really opened up, which it can do against sort of an Asian sort of style of play, and it opened up. And once we sort of got a goal or two, and yeah, we just sort of went on with it, and yeah, we really dominated the match, and the crowd were on their feet, and it was great reward for our efforts, not only through that tournament but for everyone's effort right through that campaign. Yeah.
Did you, just on that, I mean, a few players had retired, Stephen Davies being one, Michael York another. Did you know it would be your last Olympics, or you were keen to go and have another crack at it in 2004?
No, I knew it wasn't. Well, I didn't want it to be my last game, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to get to 2004. In my head, I thought I would like to continue on. I wasn't going to rush into any decisions before that. I would, let the dust settle after the Olympics in Sydney, and then just see how I felt and what I wanted and things like that. But yeah, I had a plan on after that sort of period. I had a plan that I would like to go to the next World Cup, which was in the beginning of 2002. So basically, you have a rest period after the games. The games finished in October, so you have a rest period, and then it's really 1 year preparation for another World Cup. That's what I had planned in my mind, but unfortunately, didn't turn out. And high performance sport. Terry Walsh wasn't reappointed after that, and Barry Dancer, who was the Great Britain coach at the Sydney Games, he was appointed national coach, and he had other ideas of what he wanted from his squad moving forward, and things like that. And I sort of expressed that I was very keen to hang around to the World Cup, not necessarily another Olympic campaign, but to the next World Cup, and sort of help with a little bit of transition with some older guys going out and some new ones coming in and things like that. So, but he had other ideas and said that I wouldn't be required. So that was the end of that.
How did you feel about that, Jay?
I was pretty disappointed because I suggested a few things, or what, and he said, no, you wouldn't be, required, and things like that. Okay, yeah, but what if I perform well at the national championships, which I'd done, many years before, and if I'm the best player there or whatever, would I be considered for selection and things like that? And he said, no, you wouldn't be considered. So he had a total difference. He just wanted a new squad, and they wanted to head in that direction, which at the time I didn't really understand, or I didn't really like that. But being a coach for a few years now, I do understand where he was going. I probably have learned a little bit in the coaching too, because Barry, he rang me from overseas, and I've been in the national team for 15 years, and I would have preferred it happened a little bit different rather than a phone call. I would have preferred maybe, sit down and have a cold beer or a coffee or whatever it might be, and then, and say, this is my plan, da, 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 and you had a great career and all of that. I thought after 15 years of, slaving away for the Kookaburras, that it might have happened in a different manner. But the actual decision itself, I can understand. So I would have appreciated it a little bit different way.
He was a bit different, Barry, wasn't he? Look, at the end of the day, he got the result. The only one who's won a gold medal for Australia, but
Yeah.
he probably wasn't as open with his players, reading about him and learning about him and doing interviews with him, unlike others. But it seemed to work because he got the best out of the team and they won that elusive gold medal.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a very successful coach, and obviously won our only Olympic gold medal. So a fantastic effort. About the coaching, I've never really been coached by him, so I don't know the sort of the ins and outs of how he deals with players and things like that. But he's been very successful. Good on them. They have a reunion every year and celebrate their gold medal win, and he's produced some good coaches from that cohort of athletes as well. So he's doing a hell of a lot right. So yeah, fantastic.
Absolutely. Now, you talked about Pakistan a bit. India were a strong hockey nation. Cricket's taken over as their number one sport and probably almost the number one religion. Do you ever see those two nations becoming as strong again as Australia, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany are? And part two to that question, why are Netherlands so strong? Why have Germany always been strong? And why are Belgium now one of the strongest nations?
The first part, well, India, they made it to the podium in Tokyo for the first time for a long time. I think their introduction of the Hockey India League, where it's a bit like the IPL in cricket, they have an auction system, but they have some criteria in place. So on a playing roster of 20 athletes, 12 have to be locals, Indians, and you can have eight imports. So you got 6 franchises. So we've got 72 athletes, whatever it is, playing with the best players in the world and foreign coaches and things like that. And I really believe that accelerated. I was fortunate enough, I coached Debang Mumbai in 2016 and 17 in the league. It was a fantastic experience, and it's no surprise that there was a real upward trajectory of Indian hockey with all of those athletes playing over a sort of 6 to 8 week period against the best and with the best local players. There was a dramatic, an acceleration in their development for sure. So they're back and they're competing. Hockey India League stopped in 2018 because the FIH introduced the Pro League, which started in January, and it's a worldwide competition. So that's when the Hockey India League was on. So it stopped then, and I think there's been a little bit of a decline back in the Indian system, or the Indian athletes, although they're far more competitive than they were. And Pakistan, there's no competition, no hockey competition. They used to host the Champions Trophy. They founded the Champions Trophy, but there's no Champions Trophy anymore. No one's been there for, 20, 30 years or whatever it is for a tournament. So, you can't be what you can't see. So the youngsters, the amounts of money in cricket, they all want to play. They were already if you say, oh, what's your national sport, they all say hockey is the national sport, but the most popular is cricket. So all the youngsters are playing cricket, and both in India and Pakistan, and I think that's just led to a lot of talent going to cricket rather than to hockey. They're just starting to come back. Roland Altmans, the old Dutch coach, he was coaching the Pakistan team at the Junior World Cup, and he's now coaching the Pakistan team at the Nations Cup, which is on soon, I think, in Poland. So, and maybe there's seen a little bit of improvement in them, but until they sort of sort out some internal struggles with their associations and things like that, and regularly competing at tournaments, and one day, if they can safely have host tournaments or host teams and things like that, I think you'll probably see a resurgence in that way.
Hopefully. And of course, the other one was
The
about
leagues,
Belgium,
yeah,
Germany.
because it's a wonderful place to play in Pakistan and India, and the crowds, and they're just awesome places to play. And there's some of my best memories playing in a packed stadium in the 1990 World Cup. We had a semi-final against Pakistan. There must have been 70,000 people around a hockey pitch. It's unbelievable experience and great memories. Belgium, Holland, and Germany. They have some of the best domestic competitions in the world, if not the best. Holland has had that for many years. I played there myself after I finished with the national team. I played there for about 7 years with a club in Eindhoven in the south of Holland. But it's very professional. It is professional. I get foreigners in. They train professionally, and they're probably similar. Well, the big soccer club out of Eindhoven is PSV Eindhoven, and they sort of run similarly and manage similarly to that, just on a smaller budget. And you play every week, and the games, there's always something riding on it, and you're representing your village or your small town. And I just think that playing at that level more regularly, you play 22 games in a season. They've also got a European Hockey League where the top 3 teams from Holland qualify and the top 3 teams from Germany qualify. So there's more high performance games that they're able to play in. So they're just gaining experience all the time. And I think, that's why they're able to maintain their standards so high all the time, because of their strong domestic leagues.
Are they the main rivals for both the Hockeyroos and also the Kookaburras in Paris? Germany, Holland, Belgium, maybe to a lesser extent Argentina, although they're probably not as good as they were, are
they? Well, yeah, they are. We just had some trouble with them the other day, and they'll be interesting. Great Britain have been playing some really good hockey of late as well. Spain are coming good. They've got Max Caldas, the ex-Argentinian player, but he coached the Dutch women as well. He coaches Spain, so they've got a really young squad, but they're coming through again, which will provide some difficult times for oppositions. But in the women's side of things, the Dutch are that's the Dutch by the length of the Flemington Strait, and then it's the rest of the world. So if you can get them on a poor day and you have your very best day, then I think the Hockeyroos would be in with a chance. But China are coming, Germany, Belgium are coming in the women as well now. So they're doing some, great things. Adam Commons is the high performance director of Belgium Hockey, and he's done an outstanding job both in the men's and the women's, in maintaining the men at the highest level, but also developing the women to being a realistic sort of medal chance in Paris. And they spend a lot of time and energy, and they're well resourced because they are producing medals, and they produced the first world, I think it's the first world championship gold medal for any team sport in Belgium, when they first won it, and then they went on to win the Olympic gold medal as well. So they're way up there, Belgium. in the men's. In the women, they're definitely coming with a rush. So it's going to be exciting times and exciting competition. In the Olympic format now, there's a quarterfinal. Previously, it had been two pools of six. It was a straight crossover. First in Pool A, play second in Pool B in the semi-finals. Now it's the top four crossover. So one will play four. So that's when we were talking before about the semi-final being the toughest match, I think the quarterfinal is very, very difficult. It may seem easy if one plays four, but it certainly doesn't reflect the game that a team finishes at one when the world competition is so close. Apart from sort of the Dutch and the women, but certainly in the men's, it's very close between all teams, and you need to be on your best game as often as possible.
You like the introduction of the quarterfinal, Jay?
Well, my experience in the last World Cup, we were Junior World Cup. That is, we met France in a quarterfinal, and we lost 3-2. So that's the end of your tournament.
Yeah.
Based on that, no. If we had won, I would have been in big favour of it. But yeah, it was 3-2. It's a tough game. It's an early end to your tournament, but it certainly keeps the tournament alive for a little bit longer. But it's certainly a cruel way to go out, because you could win all your games, finish on top of your pool, and you play the fourth team who has a day out, and you have an off day, and you're out of the tournament. There's no sort of second chance.
Now, just before I let you go, you mentioned before Toon de Nooijer of Netherlands or Shaz Ahmed of Pakistan, the hardest players that you played against, or best players you played against. Who's the best player you played with? And as I've mentioned a few times, there have been some absolute superstars in the Australian hockey team, including the great Jay Stacy, that played during your time, Jay.
Oh, yeah. Now, that's probably the most difficult question you could ask. There were some great players in all different, and everyone had different skill sets, and you mentioned some of the great defenders. My teammate, Dave Wansborough, was, quite exciting and skillful and creative. Fullback York and Walk combination. Stephen Davies was they dubbed him the Maradona of hockey, and when he had his long hair and all that type of stuff, and he was a goal scoring machine. He was one of the best players. He was one of the best players I played with. In the earlier days, of course, I was the youngster and always looked up to Colin Batch, being a Victorian and things like that. He was, the quiet achiever, but he always got the best out of himself and had a lot of impact in games, in being creative in setting up play. Goalkeepers as well. We've had some cracker goalkeepers, which is, vital when you're going into big tournaments to save the savables. Of course, oppositions are going to score goals from time to time, but keeping most of them out stands you in good stead. Dean Evans was probably one that we didn't see the best of, with some injury and things like that, but he was a very classy player. He come from WA. His nickname was Jack Evans. But he was a classy player as well. And then you had your sort of, your tradesmen, your workhorses and stuff like that. And, one of my best mates, even today, Ash Carey, just locked down left half and, done his job. And, can't all be playmakers. We can't all be tradesmen. We can't all be creative players, but we need all of them in our team to make sure that, the team operates and rows in the same direction, and and can be, as a unit, be as defensively sound and creative going forward the other way. So some tremendous players, and it's hard to sort of pick anyone out of them, but they all had their own strengths and their own their own importance to each team that I played in.
And before I let you go, Joan, I really appreciate your time being part of the program for Aussie Home Loans. Aspirations, considering you're the under-21 coach at the moment, aspirations to coach the senior team, or if not the Australian senior team or the Australian senior women's team, maybe a team overseas?
No, I'd like to, I've been at the Institute of Sport. I really love the development side of things. I do miss the competitiveness and the competition of coaching in tournaments and working with a group of athletes, to provide an environment where they can be their best and the team can perform at its best. And that's what I do with the under 21s national team. As far as aspirations, yes, I want to continue on with my coaching. I want to continue to learn, continue to develop. I don't always get it right, but I've really enjoyed the journey so far, and I still think I've got a bit to offer in the coaching ranks. So we'll just see what opportunities present themselves in the future, and but I'd love to, of course, as I dreamt as a young kid playing for the Kookaburras, as a mature age man now, I'd really dearly love to coach the Kookaburras one day. When that opportunity presents itself, I don't know, but deep down, I'd like to coach them one day.
Well, I hope you
moving
get that
forward.
chance. It'll be fantastic. And I really appreciate you joining us today. It's been a hell of a career, over 300 games. I don't think anyone thought that record would be broken, but not only has Eddie Ockenden, Jay, broken that record, it's a quick one here. He's 100 plus past it. When do you think he'll retire? He just keeps on keeping on, doesn't he? The great man.
Yeah, he does. He's amazing. Ed, he's still moving as good as ever. His hand-eye skill, he's very important to the Kookaburras moving forward. He's changed positions that many times. He's been adaptable and flexible to, to serve the team. He's a great ambassador for hockey and for sport in general, really. So he can play. He can keep on playing. He's got a young family and all that. I'm sure that comes into the equation now. But I'm sure he'll make the best decision for himself. But moving forward, but yeah, the amount of games he's playing is incredible. I mean, that happens in all the eras because, I think Rick, when he first started playing, they only played New Zealand 6 times in a year. And then by the time I was sort of playing, we were playing 20 to 25 internationals in a year. And then now they sort of play, sort of 40 to 45. So if you're like Eddie and you're robust and your body stands up and things like that, then he's one of the first picks, so he can rack up plenty of games. And he's played in all of those games. I haven't seen too many bad ones, so he's tracking along nicely. So yeah, good luck to him. I'm not sure how many he's on. He's going to
I think
hit
it's
450 or something
427.
like that. Something ridiculous like that. Yeah, is it? Okay.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, you were
but it'll be up to
robust.
him. He's a great ambassador.
Sorry, you were robust too, though, Joe. I mean, what do you put that down to? I mean, you talked about Mark Hagar getting injured in 1992, and you talked about Evans getting injured and having an injury-plagued career, but you didn't get injured too often, did you?
Yeah, although no, I didn't really. I mean, you need to be just as professional in your recovery and what you do and in the gym. And I guess I was naturally born with a robust body as well. Those 2 guys you mentioned, it was Mark went out he had a bit of a hot spot in his foot, and they didn't know sort of how bad it was going to be. So he just kept on. They had a contingency plan. They just kept playing because they didn't know if it was going to break. Fortunately for us, you can't replace them once the tournament starts back then, but now you can. But so unfortunate for him, but fortunate for us that something went amiss prior to the tournament. Otherwise, we would have had to play one short right through the tournament. And for Dean, it was an ACL, a twisting type, type injury. So it was an ACL injury for him. So disappointing for them. But I think it's down to recovery, what you do off the field, how you treat your body, whether you get your sleep, whether you're doing all the right things. Don't get me wrong, I had a good time along the way, but I think you have to be you have to have good decision making and good timing to make sure that you're living a normal lifestyle with your mates and your friends and being, developing normal. But you have to always make good choices and remember that you're a high performance athlete and make decisions based on that.
Jay, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on Dashing Dan's Olympic Adventures for Aussie Home Loans, who have got numerous areas of expertise. You can purchase a property, owner-occupied or investment, building a property portfolio, refinancing, debt consolidation, cash out construction, pre-approvals, first home buyers, equipment loans, car loans and personal loans. They deal with anyone in Australia. They've got clients in every state and capital city, and they do Zoom as well. Enjoy the Olympic Games. We hope Australia can win gold, certainly in the men, and push the Netherlands all the way in the women, and keep enjoying your coaching. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks a lot, Dan. I really enjoyed the chat.